Do you know, there can be no question that feeding your baby fresh and natural ingredients is beneficial to their health and, of course, their well-being. But with mums and dads living increasingly hectic lifestyles, sometimes the lure of processed baby food, well, really, it can be too much. I put my hand up to that and admit it myself. Gary Hawes is a leading campaigner in the UK for the improvement of mainstream baby foods and has just released a new book full of quick and simple baby recipes. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Hi there.
Now, how did you get involved in this in the first place?
Well, it's been a long story in a way, because actually my mum is a primary school teacher and she was really interested way before Jamie Oliver days about how food would affect the behaviour of the kids in the nursery. So I was brought up having to eat very well. And then when I started work, I worked for Heinz. And whilst I worked at Heinz, I started to wonder whether baby food, as you buy it off the shelf, tasted anything like homemade, and whether the taste of it was giving children a taste for, if you like, processed food. And I thought about that a long time ago, but thought, nothing to do with me, I'll just go and do my own thing. And then as life has progressed, that thought hasn't gone away. And I just felt it was about time that we had some baby food on the shelf that saved you all the bother of having to make it yourself.
So what is the fundamental difference then between what I buy in my local supermarket that comes in a jar that says baby food and what you've come up with?
Okay. When you walk down the supermarket, most of the baby food you see considered room temperature for a couple of years. If you think about it, it just sits there on the shelf.
How do they do that?
Yeah, exactly. It's a clever trick, isn't it? They're usually in glass. I mean, you can buy it in cans, but the basic process that they do is what's called canning, even though it's in glass. And what they do is they make the puree, and then they put it into the jar, put the lid on, and then give it another cook. If you were going to do it yourself at home, and don't try it at home, you'd basically cook it at very high temperatures in a pressure cooker to get it up to those temperatures, and it sterilises. The best way I can explain it is if you think of long life milk, that's the nearest equivalent.
Yeah,
if you
ultra
like.
high temperature cooking.
And one of my concerns is that if I give you an adult example, if I made you have long life milk in your tea for 6 months, yeah, you can imagine that? And then
it's bad enough having it for a day when you've run out of your favourite pint, but yes.
And then gave you a cup of tea made with fresh milk, you'd find the taste of fresh milk very different. You'd find it quite odd because you've got used to the taste of long life. And what I think is happening, and this is very much my opinion, but what I think is happening is that by feeding babies a lot of long life baby food, or the jars and the cans, we're giving children a taste for processed food. We're giving, they've never tasted fresh food. When you suddenly give them freshly steamed broccoli, they've never tasted it before. So what we do is we've looked at the best possible way to make baby food at home, and we make it exactly that way, which is how we talk about how to make it in the book, and then freeze it in our little pots, and you buy it frozen, so we don't have to do that extra final cook. So it's taking what parents have been doing for some time, if they have all the time in the world, but we save the washing up and the chopping. But when we do things like the baby show and various events all over the country for people to taste our food, a lot of people say, I'd really like to try and make at least some of the baby food myself. And that's why we've written a book, giving all our secrets away.
Great. Well, I've got a little girl, and when she was first born and started doing the weaning thing, I did the whole kind of, trying to sort of, freeze the ice cube trays and stuff. And actually, I was kind of successful in that I did it some of the time, and then the rest of the time I kind of fell back on, cheating with jars or whatever, and whatever else I could find her. I mean, the problem was that I didn't have the time.
No.
Who does have the time these days?
Well, what we've tried to do is make it incredibly simple to make your own baby food. So it does take some time, and that is partly what we're doing. If you've got the time, please try and make it yourself. If you haven't got the time, you can buy the exact same product off shelf, so you can dip in and out of it rather than, some children, I don't know if your little one, get the taste for the jars, and then it's a nightmare to struggle them onto your homemade again.
Well, you said that, and it reminded me of somebody I know, a friend whose child was, in effect, weaned on jars. They were both very busy and they got on with it, and actually, you see the jar and it says, fresh carrot, da-da-da-da-da, so you're quite happy. But when she was tried on real carrot that was mushed up compared to the jar of carrot, she wouldn't touch it. So, yeah, there was definitely a difference. But, I mean, we're also bombarded with so much other information. Is all your stuff organic? And if so, why must it be organic for that age?
OK. I really believe in organic for as much as you possibly can of food. And if a if you can afford it at all, it's in the first year, make it organic.
Why in the first year?
Well, if you think you've got a little baby who's never had anything other than the milk, be it, you know, whatever their usual milk was or is, and then you suddenly want to give them food, they're doing an enormous amount of growing in that first year. And they're, you know, they're growing their bones and their muscles, but also their brains as well. And what we know is conventional food, so food that's not organic, is allowed to be treated with lots of chemicals whilst it's growing, and also to preserve it when you see it in the supermarket, which is why if you buy yourself something that's organic at the same time and buy something that's not organic and put it in your fridge, the organic is likely to go off quicker because it's not been sprayed with lots of things, it's not been treated. But all of those chemicals, you basically, they're the building blocks for growth and development. So the purer it is, the better quality it is. And that's what most people know about organic. But there are some other great things about organic, because actually, because they're not putting loads of chemicals on the fruits and vegetables and the cows and, you know, using antibiotics on all the animals and so on, they grow slower.
Right.
So therefore, there's been some recent research on milk, on organic milk, and it's much higher in, for example, omega-3 than conventional milk, and also other vitamins, because it grows slower. So you get, if you like, a more intense flavour, but also much more intense in nutrients than conventional food.
Okay, so you're a big advocate
I'm
of
a big
organic
advocate
wherever
of organic.
possible. All right,
Yeah.
that message is coming through.
But what we do in the book is we do point out there is, if you can't, you know, if you can't stretch for organic all the time, there are certain things that are really worth concentrating on. For example, carrots are amazing things. Carrots are great for growing. They're little suckers for pesticides and things. So organic carrots are particularly pure compared to conventional carrots. They can be conventional carrots sort of take the pesticides from the soil very easily. So carrots, for example, we point out. Eggs, really recommend that you go for free range organic, because they're a little intense ball of nutrition.
And I mean, when you can't buy organic, then practically peel where possible, wash where possible.
Yeah, I mean, when you're first making your own baby food, you peel anyway, because their little tummies can't cope with the roughage. So as we're an adult, and we know we should be eating all the peel on various things, but when you're a little baby, all the roughage is too coarse for their intestines. So you peel anyway, but with organic and conventional, you should always wash and peel the ingredients to start with.
All right. Well, should we have a taste of stuff?
I think we should.
The truth of the pudding is in the tasting, they say.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm letting myself in for. It's been a while since I've tried some baby puree.
Before too long, you have to be thinking about it again. I've got a couple here. One of the things to notice about when you make your own baby food as well is that they separate out, because we're not using anything to make it.
No binding or anything.
There's nothing to stabilise it. It's just literally the ingredients it is. So should we start with the savoury?
Okay.
What's this? This is squash and red lentil.
Right.
This is the one that won the Organic Food Awards for us.
Okay. Thank you.
You manage.
And I mean, how long do these things last? Do your products last?
Well, once when they're frozen, they're fine for 10 months, or that's the best before date. So 3 months in your own freezer at home, because you don't check it the same way you do. Getting another spoonful.
I am taking another spoonful. I'm a bit hungry. My tummy's rumbling. But also, to me, this is just lentil soup.
Well,
it tastes just like lentil soup that Granny would make. No different.
Yeah, exactly.
And there isn't that kind of
stickiness.
No, there's no stickiness, and there isn't that jarriness either. And it's actually quite moist.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Okay. So that's your savoury. And this one has won the Organic Food Awards for us. That's my favourite one.
Okay.
But we'll taste this one, because this is the one that we get most people to initiate most people on this one when they first try the baby. This is apple and mango.
Okay, because this is the one that most people say, whatever you do, apple's quite a good one to get your baby started on.
As is pear as well.
Right. And why is that?
Well, breast milk is very sweet, and so babies like the sweetness of certain fruits and vegetables. Another good way, some people don't like to start with fruit first of all, so sweet potato is also a lovely one to start with, as are the squashes, pumpkins and butternut squash, because they've got a natural sweetness to them. But also pear, apple, carrot, sweet potato, squash, all that those sort of foods. They very rarely cause allergies. So therefore, you're not feeding a baby something that
you're guaranteed that they'll start off with something.
When you first start, you need a bit of confidence that you don't want a reaction to start with. The classic one that a lot of people start with is just normal white potatoes. The problem with normal white potatoes is when you start whisking them up and chopping them, mashing them down, the starch breaks out and you end up with glue.
Right.
So actually it's not one that... Do you remember that one?
My little girl can't stand